In 47 BCE, as the ancient world trembled beneath shifting empires and fragile alliances, Cleopatra VII, the last ruler of Ptolemaic Egypt, turned her formidable intellect toward a chilling and deeply controversial pursuit: the systematic study of poison through human experimentation. At just 22 years old, Cleopatra was already renowned not only for her political cunning, but also for her fascination with medicine and toxicology, a field she documented extensively. Yet her methods revealed an unsettling willingness to sacrifice human lives in the name of knowledge. Within her palace laboratory, overlooking Alexandria's bustling harbor, condemned prisoners, expecting swift executions, were instead ushered into a far more insidious fate, unknowingly becoming test subjects in a carefully orchestrated series of lethal trials designed to catalog the precise effects of various toxins. Guards forced these individuals to ingest measured doses of plant-based poisons, hemlock, nightshade, and henbane, while Cleopatra observed with clinical detachment, meticulously recording every physiological response as the human body succumbed to chemical assault in real time. When one subject consumed belladonna extract and began foaming at the mouth, she documented the sequence with disturbing precision: initial disorientation, followed by dilated pupils, an accelerating pulse, and ultimately the collapse of respiratory function as life ebbed away. Yet survival offered no reprieve. Those who endured the first dose were subjected to escalating quantities in subsequent trials, transforming the process into a prolonged descent into agony, where each day introduced a more severe and irreversible deterioration. Victims exposed to mineral toxins, such as arsenic compounds, suffered particularly drawn-out torment, beginning with violent abdominal cramps, before progressing into relentless, bloody diarrhea, as Cleopatra tracked not only the symptoms, but the endurance of consciousness itself. In some accounts, she approached victims in their final moments, calmly inquiring about their sensations as organs failed one by one, treating their fading voices not as cries of pain, but as valuable data points in her expanding archive of lethal knowledge. Her most disturbing experiments involved combining toxins, seeking an ideal balance, one that would kill swiftly yet without visible distress, forcing victims into simultaneous cascades of paralysis, cardiac failure, and suffocation, some remaining fully aware as their bodies shut down system by system. Ultimately, this knowledge would shape her own death in 30 BCE, when she reportedly chose the venom of an asp, a method she believed would deliver the very outcome she had spent years refining: a swift and controlled end, free from prolonged suffering. Centuries later, in 1315, within the shadowed streets of Montpellier, France, physician Henri de Mondeville pursued anatomical truth with a dangerous obsession, challenging the long-held authority of ancient medical doctrine. By day, he was a respected educator advocating progressive surgical practices. Yet, as night fell, his quest for knowledge drove him beyond ethical boundaries, into acts that would horrify even the most forward-thinking minds of his era. Initially, Mondeville relied on corpses obtained through bribery, dissecting the dead in secret. But as his findings contradicted the teachings of Galen, he grew increasingly dissatisfied with passive observation. Soon, witnesses claimed he arranged access to condemned prisoners who were diverted from execution and instead transported to a hidden cellar where they were restrained upon wooden tables under dim, flickering light. Though he administered rudimentary sedatives, wine infused with mandrake and opium, the effects were incomplete, leaving subjects conscious as he began making deliberate incisions with finely crafted blades imported from Damascus. As skin was retracted with iron hooks, exposing living organs, Mondeville observed the movement of intestines, the rhythm of blood vessels, and the expansion of lungs, documenting each detail while his subjects writhed and struggled against their restraints. He probed nerve pathways, noting which stimuli triggered pain or involuntary motion, and recorded his findings with blood-stained hands, reducing human suffering to mere annotations in the margins of scientific progress. Most chilling were his observations of the heart, which continued to beat even as blood loss and shock weakened his subjects, some remaining conscious for over an hour while he meticulously examined their exposed anatomy. By 1348, as the Black Death devastated Europe, physician Guy de Chauliac confronted a crisis that would push him toward equally grim experimentation within the papal city of Avignon. Serving as physician to Pope Clement VI, he remained while others fled, documenting the plague's forms. Yet desperation soon drove him to test unproven treatments on the already dying. He began with bloodletting, varying quantities drawn from weakened patients, observing how quickly death followed, as some collapsed instantly while others lingered, watching their life drain away into collecting vessels. When this failed, he lanced swollen lymph nodes and applied substances ranging from dried toad poultices to mercury compounds, causing intense burning, tremors, and loss of bodily control. His most disturbing methods targeted pneumonic victims, forcing tubes into their throats to administer vapors, vinegar fumes, herbal smoke, even heated urine, often triggering spasms that caused patients to choke while fully conscious. Despite overwhelming mortality, he recorded each failure meticulously, justifying the suffering as a necessary cost of medical advancement, while most subjects perished within hours of treatment. Long before these events, in the 3rd century BCE, Alexandria stood as the intellectual heart of the ancient world, where physicians Herophilus and Erasistratus conducted experiments that would define both progress and cruelty. With royal permission, they performed vivisections on living prisoners, hundreds by some estimates, who were considered legally dead, yet remained fully conscious as their bodies were opened for study. Herophilus mapped the nervous system, distinguishing sensory from motor nerves by observing reactions to direct manipulation, while Erasistratus focused on blood flow and cardiac function in exposed, beating hearts. Some victims reportedly remained conscious for hours, even as their brains were probed, their responses carefully noted, raising profound ethical questions that would echo through centuries of medical philosophy. By the 18th century, public executions had evolved into opportunities for scientific inquiry, as physicians sought to understand the boundaries between life and death using freshly decapitated bodies. After the blade fell, heads were examined immediately, eyes reacting, jaws tensing, as researchers like Pierre-Jean-Georges Cabanis applied electrical currents, producing expressions that appeared eerily lifelike. Observers reported eyes opening in apparent awareness, lips moving as if attempting speech, raising the terrifying possibility that consciousness might persist briefly after decapitation. Yet among all these horrors, few inventions rivaled the cruelty of the bronze bull of Phalaris, a device designed to transform execution into both spectacle and experiment. Victims were locked inside the hollow statue as flames heated the metal, their screams distorted into animalistic bellows through acoustic tubes, while they slowly succumbed to unbearable heat over prolonged minutes. Unable to escape, their bodies pressed against searing bronze, skin burning and adhering to the surface as they remained conscious long enough to experience every stage of their own destruction. In ancient Rome, under Nero, the spectacle of suffering reached new extremes with the tunica molesta, a method that transformed execution into a grotesque study of human combustion. Victims were dressed in garments soaked with flammable substances, pitch, sulfur, and naphtha, then bound upright, ensuring they could not escape the flames once ignited. As fire spread gradually upward, observers noted that victims remained conscious for several minutes, experiencing escalating agony as skin, muscle, and fat became fuel for the fire itself. Death came slowly, through shock, fluid loss, and suffocation as flames reached the lungs, while crowds watched as human bodies were methodically reduced to ash over the course of nearly 20 minutes. Across centuries and civilizations, these experiments reveal a chilling truth that the pursuit of knowledge, when stripped of ethics, can descend into something far darker than ignorance itself.